Let's say the USA and Russia start a war. To keep human civilization from ending, they agree not to use nuclear weapons. What do you think the Russians would fear most about the American weapons? Not aircraft carriers with F-35 stealth fighters on board, and not Abrams tanks. They'd probably fear Tomahawk cruise missiles the most. In the event of a nuclear conflict, Tomahawks will play a big part, along with Minuteman and Trident missiles. In our video, we'll go into detail about this impressive weapon and explain why the Russians are so worried about it. In 1967, during another Arab-Israeli war, two Egyptian Soviet-made Komar boats sank the Israeli destroyer Eilat using Soviet P-15 termite anti-ship cruise missiles. This prompted a response in the United States, which in 1972 began developing its own anti-ship missiles of 533mm caliber, which submarines could launch directly from torpedo tubes. In 1983, the missile was put into service. It was the Tomahawk, which, to be more precise, was the Tomahawk BGM-109, according to NATO codification SS-66. Since then, the missile has been updated several times. There are now versions for the sea and land. The Tomahawk Block 4 has been in service since 2004, and the Tomahawk 5 has been available since 2021. Let's look at the technical specs of this cruise missile. The Tomahawk is a single-engine plane with folding wings. It's powered by a small Williams F107 turbofan engine. The missiles can fly at an altitude of 30-50 meters. It can reach a top speed of 880 kilometers per hour or 546 miles per hour, which is Mach 0.75. The Block 4 and Block 5 can hit targets up to 1,600 kilometers, about 1,000 miles, away. The missile's warhead weighs 340 kilograms, about 750 pounds. Its dimensions are: length, 5.6 meters, about 18.4 feet. Wingspan, 2.6 meters, about 8.5 feet. The missile weighs between 1,200 and 1,500 kilograms, depending on the modification. There are a dozen different warhead options for different types of targets, including cluster, armor-piercing, semi-armor-piercing, conventional high-explosive warheads, and of course, the W-80 and W-84 variable-yield nuclear warheads. The first one is equivalent to about 5 to 200 kg of TNT, while the second one is equivalent to about 5 to 150 kilotons. The Tomahawks, from Block 1 to Block 3, had several targeting channels. The INS system is an inertial system for flights over terrain with weak radar contrast, like over the sea, because water is the same everywhere. Gyroscopes and accelerometers work until the missile gets to the first correction area over the enemy coast. Then the guidance is done by more high-tech methods. TERCOM's terrain contour matching system scans the terrain and compares the data with radar images stored in the missile's memory. It's one of the most reliable and effective ways to guide cruise missiles. The Tomahawk navigates autonomously on the ground. It doesn't need constant guidance from a satellite or remote operator, which increases reliability and eliminates the risk of being fooled by enemy signals. On the other hand, there are a few things it can't do. For instance, TERCOM doesn't work well over deserts or snowy tundra. The route is designed to avoid open water areas on the missile's path, like lakes, reservoirs, and the mouths of large rivers. Otherwise, it could cause problems with the missile's navigation system. The optical and electronic system, DS-MAC, is responsible for the final section of the missile trajectory. It behaves like the Terminator from James Cameron's action movie, continuously scanning the terrain with its electronic eye to check the victim's appearance against a digital photo stored in its memory. The latest versions of the Block ARF and Block V now have GPS guidance capability. This significantly simplifies the process of preparation for launch, as there is no need for complex maps for TERCOM operation. In case of work in GPS navigation mode, the ship's crew can enter coordinates into the missile's memory without any specific description of the target. The missile will do everything by itself, simply exploding near the specified place. While accuracy is reduced, speed is increased. This makes the Tomahawk an excellent means of fire support in attack or defense. The new missile is able to barrage in the air while waiting for the right moment to attack. It can also reprogram itself in flight, and depending on the situation, attack one of 15 predetermined targets. The Tomahawk has a multitude of attack algorithms, including those for horizontal flight, dive, and horizontal flight over the target. These allow it to fulfill almost any task in enemy territory. It can eliminate the selected target, destroy any object of military or civilian infrastructure, smash an airfield runway, set fire to a hangar with military equipment, knock down a radio tower, blow up a power station, penetrate several meters of earth and concrete, and destroy a protected command post. The Tomahawk still can't attack moving targets, but it can now defeat moving targets, including ships. This was achieved with the Tomahawk Block R4 multi-mode mission modification, which was too expensive for the US military to adopt. Also, there was a BGM-109B Tomahawk anti-ship missile modification. It was an anti-ship version of the Tomahawk with an active radar homing head from the anti-ship Harpoon missile. The TASM was taken out of service about 10 years ago because there wasn't a good enough opponent. The US military calls this missile a weapon of choice for good reason. Its use saves pilots' lives and costly aircraft if they have to deal with a powerful air defense system or strike in bad weather. Tomahawks are a pretty common weapon, to be honest. They've been used more than 2,000 times since they were first introduced. Ships armed with Tomahawks were involved in combat operations even before the 90s. The modernized New Jersey shelled Lebanon, and in 1991, a US destroyer and 2 submarines for the first time launched missiles at Iraq. Tomahawks flew in the same country again in 1993. In September 1995, the missiles were used against a target in Europe. The cruiser Normandy launched them at the positions of Bosnian Serbs. During Operations Desert Strike and Fox in the Desert in 1996 and 1998, Iraq and Afghanistan were attacked by Tomahawks. Since 2017, cruise missiles have been used in Syria. Tomahawks have become a favorite weapon of American presidents and a symbol of US counterterrorism operations since the Gulf War. The missile, conceived as a strategic and anti-ship missile, has proven to be a universal tactical weapon. The experience of local wars over the past 20 years has demonstrated a tenfold increase in the role of sea-based cruise missiles. With each passing year, Tomahawk missiles become more sophisticated, acquiring new skills and capabilities that enable them to perform a wider range of complex tasks. As practice has shown, Tomahawks are an effective weapon for destroying the enemy's air defense system and disorganizing their army. Without radars, air defense systems, airfields, power plants, fuel depots, cellular and radio communication towers, command posts, and other strategically important facilities, the enemy is unable to offer serious resistance. Now it is possible to take him out. In such conditions, there's no need for super expensive and complex stealth aircraft, bomb bridges and retreating tank columns from an unreachable height. Simple and cheap F-16s can easily handle that task. Let's be clear, all this is true in the case of an enemy that is far behind technologically. But what if their level of armament is approximately equal? For example, if the enemy is Russia, what then? The Russians have demonstrated their ability to shoot down at least half of the Storm Shadow Scalp EG cruise missiles of Anglo-French manufacture using their S-300 and S-400 systems. Their technical characteristics are very similar to those of the Tomahawks, including a subsonic speed and an approximately 1,400 kilometer range. When flying at low altitude, 30-40 meters, the range decreases to about 600 kilometers. Missiles cannot maneuver with high overloads and also do not use decoys. This means the Russians will be able to shoot down American cruise missiles just as successfully. I came across some info online that the latest Tomahawks use radio-absorbing and radio-transparent materials. So the effective dispersion area of the missile is pretty much just 1 square meter, but we can assume that the characteristics of the Anglo-French missile in terms of detection are not worse, and they are still shot down. And that brings us to the most interesting question. Why are the Russians afraid of Tomahawks? They really are. Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, the former chief of the Russian Navy, who was recently removed from his post due to the Black Sea Fleet's constant losses due to Ukrainian strikes, said that Tomahawks are capable of reaching targets in most of Russia. He said that ships carrying these missiles are one of the main threats to the country. The Tomahawks are powerful because of their numbers. For example, only one nuclear submarine of the Ohio type is capable of firing up to 154 cruise missiles. and the required number of fighter jets and anti-aircraft missiles to repel an attack would exceed the capabilities of any country, including Russia and China. And the US Navy has 140 Tomahawk carriers. Their total number in a salvo can reach 1,120. This is a knockout blow that will knock out any country including Russia and China. As we can see, the truth has been confirmed once again. Napoleon said, "God is on the side of large battalions." This is evident in the Russian-Ukrainian war. The Ukrainian army has more high-precision weapons than Russia, thanks to Western supplies. However, 10,000 Russian shells per day fired at Ukrainian positions versus 1,000 Ukrainian shells wins. It's better to have a lot of cheap, albeit not the most advanced weapons, than a lot of advanced and expensive ones. The Tomahawk is indeed a relatively inexpensive weapon. In 2016, the US Department of Defense purchased 149 Tomahawk Block 4 missiles for $202.3 million, which equates to approximately one piece costing $1.36 million. Currently, there are more than 4,000 of these missiles in the United States. Furthermore, it is noteworthy that they continue to be produced. This is to say that the Tomahawk will not be like the Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, for which, in order to supply Ukraine with them, we had to restart production and invite retirees who previously worked on the production of these weapons. In the 1980s, the maximum production capacity was 20 missiles per month. However, the output can be increased to 120 pieces per month through the supplementation of enterprises with labor forces, the introduction of shift work hours, and the connection of alternative suppliers. Consequently, the United States possesses the capability to overwhelm Russia with its Tomahawks, should it choose to do so. This is a formidable weapon indeed. We are confident that you will find our future content just as engaging. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you again soon.